Good evening. It is time for Esther chapter 6. During that night, the king could not sleep, so he gave an order to bring the book of records, the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had reported about Bigtana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, who were doorkeepers, that they had sought to attack King Ahasuerus. Then the king said, "What honor or dignity has been bestowed on Mordecai for this?" And the king's servants who attended him said, "Nothing has been done for him." So the king said, "Who is in the courtyard?" Now Haman had just entered the outer courtyard of the king's palace in order to speak to the king about hanging Mordecai on the wooden gallows which he had prepared for him. So the king's servant said to him, "Behold, Haman is standing in the courtyard." And the king said, "Have him come in." Haman then came in, and the king said to him, "What is to be done for the man whom the king desires to honor?" And Haman said to himself, "Whom would the king desire to honor more than me?" Therefore Haman said to the king, "For the man whom the king desires to honor, have them bring a royal robe which the king has worn, and the horse on which the king has ridden, and on whose head a royal turban has been placed. Then order them to hand the robe and the horse over to one of the king's noble officials, and have them dress the man whom the king desires to honor, and lead him on horseback through the city square, and proclaim before him, 'So it shall be done for the man whom the king desires to honor.'" Then the king said to Haman, "Quickly, take the robe and the horse, just as you have said, and do so for Mordecai the Jew, who is sitting at the king's gate. Do not fail to do anything of all that you have said." So Haman took the robe and the horse and dressed Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city square and proclaimed before him, "So it shall be done for the man whom the king desires to honor." Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate while Haman hurried home, mourning with his head covered. And Haman informed Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends of everything that had happened to him. Then his wise men and Zeresh's wife said to him, "If Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish origin, you will not prevail over him, but will certainly fall before him." While they were still talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and quickly brought Haman to the banquet, which Esther had prepared. So who else sees God throughout this entire chapter? I mean, he's in the whole book, really, but for real. I mean, I can think of a couple other stories in scripture where the Lord has come and spoken to people via their dreams. Here is the king, and he's not able to sleep. I wonder possibly why he couldn't sleep. Wonder if maybe that was God. So instead, he has his people bring in the records of the Chronicles. And we're going to read the Chronicles, and maybe that'll, wear me down. And as they're reading the Chronicles, then it's brought back to his memory. Oh my gosh, like here was this man who saved my life, and it was forgotten. And then simultaneously, you have Haman just anxiously awaiting to speak to the king because he's, with the help of his wife and his friends, have conjured up this plan on how he can get rid of Mordecai once and for all. And so here's this dark desire, this plan that's been created, and now is going to come to the king, and it is totally squashed and completely reversed. And instead of Haman getting what he wanted to do, the polar opposite happens, and everything he thinks that's going to happen to himself is actually given to Mordecai, which to Haman is his enemy, but in reality should never have been. Then we have Haman hurrying home, probably seeking some comfort from his friends and his wife, with something. And that's not what he's met with. What he's met with is all of a sudden his wife is telling him, "You're failing. And if this guy is of Jewish origin, you're not going to prevail over him." Well, now, didn't she know that he was Jewish all along? I mean, they've all known that he's Mordecai the Jew. So why all of a sudden is he not going to prevail because this man is Jewish? Could it be because they recognized the work of his Lord?